going to turn to the book of Revelation, chapter 12. Now, chapters 12 and 13 are giving us a list of a cast of characters. You go to a play, they hand you a thing, and it tells you who the people are that are playing the parts and all that kind of stuff. In order to really understand the book of Revelation, we have to understand who everybody is. So we're going to look at 3 characters this chapter, and then 3 more characters next chapter, I think. And so we will be revealing who the cast of characters are. We're also going to be looking at what's going on during the last part of the tribulation period. So it's going to be something that we need to make as a foundation as we go into the rest of the book of Revelation. This is, and there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. And she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth and pain to be delivered. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his heads. And his tail drew the 3rd part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. And she brought forth a man-child, who was to rule all nations, the rod of iron. And her child was caught up unto God, and to his throne. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she hath a place prepared of God, that they should feed her there 1,260 days. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not, neither was their place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceived the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now is come salvation and strength and the kingdom of our God and the power of his Christ. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our God day and night. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. And they loved not their lives unto the death. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath. Now, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. And when the dragon saw that he was cast into the earth, and he persecuted the woman which brought forth the man-child. And to the woman was given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she ought to fly, might fly into the wilderness, unto a place where she was nourished, and a time and times and a half a time from the face of the serpent. And the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood. And the earth helped this woman, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood, which the dragon cast out of his mouth. And the dragon was wroth with the woman, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which kept the commandments of God, and hath the testimony of Jesus Christ. So we see that we have a lot of kind of weird things happening here. Hard to understand. And so we're going to look at these first 3 people. First of all, there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. And she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth and pain to be delivered. So this woman has had different kinds of people step in. Of course, the Roman Catholic Church thinks it's the Virgin Mary. Just about every cult and ism that's led by a woman pretends to be the one that's in here. But they don't read the verse. To understand the Bible, you got to read the verse and know the Old Testament. So we find here that she's clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. Now, back in Genesis, we find Joseph, who had this dream, told it to his brothers about sheaves in the field, and their sheaves were bowing down to his field. Well, his brothers didn't like that. There's a younger brother saying, "Oh, you're going to bow down to me." And then he said, "I got another dream. I had the moon and the stars and the sun, and there was 11 stars, and they bowed down." And Jacob didn't like that. Jacob said, "No, are you kidding? Or you think that your mother and I and your brothers were all going to bow down to you?" And so he rebuked him. But the woman here is Israel. The woman is often portrayed as Israel in the Old Testament. She is a woman, and she is the one that is going to be espoused to God himself. And so we find that it's Israel. Don't make many mistakes. There's only one interpretation when we read this verse. You find that it's Israel. And so Israel is about to bring forth a child. And of course, that's the Messiah. That's Jesus Christ. And so we find here, Israel is the first person. And then in verse 6 of Isaiah 9, it says, "For unto us a child is born, and unto us a son is given, and the government shall be on his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace." We often hear that verse on Christmas time. It's not really talking about Christmas, except maybe the first verse, the first line. But we find that this son is born. Certainly was born in Bethlehem. But it says a son was given. It means he was ahead of his birth. He lived before his birth. And he was given and became born in Bethlehem that he might be the Savior of the world. Now, this old chapter deals with Israel. It's going to deal with Israel. It doesn't deal with the church at all. The church has sometimes made the church the woman in some places. And so, but it's Israel. So out this chapter, you've got to understand that it's talking about Israel. And the focus is Israel. And so we find that that is the woman is Israel. And then there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his heads. And his tail drew the 3rd part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered to devour her child, as soon as it was born. We find here that this dragon is Satan himself. And we find that many times he has tried to stop this birth. From the beginning, he was cast out of heaven, and the 3rd part of the angels went with him. So we know that that's Satan himself. And we find that he has 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns. In the last part of the tribulation period, Satan is going to revive the old Roman Empire, the 10 states that made up the old Roman Empire. And he's going to bring them back together as a force at the end of the tribulation period. And so those 7 horns were 7 kings and 7 crowns on their heads. There were 7 nations, but yet there was 10 nations, but yet 7 crowns, only 10 real kings. So he's going to compile these back together. He's going to put them under the head of the Antichrist, which we're going to see in the next chapter. because the next chapter talks about the Gentiles. So we find that this is talking about Israel. And so, but from the beginning, he tried to stop this birth. Remember Cain and Abel? Abel was the righteous one. And so he had Cain kill Abel. But then Adam and Eve had another son, Seth, and so the line continued. And then through the Israelites' journey into Egypt, he tried to kill them in slavery. He tried to be, the Pharaoh tried to kill all the men children, but that was stymied. And so it didn't happen. And then, of course, many times, I mean, I could sit up here half the day and talk about the times that Satan tried to kill the nation of Israel. And many times God had to step in and save them through Haman and then even earlier through Hitler and Mussolini. And so many times anti-Semitism is really behind what Satan wants to do. He wants to stop the nation of Israel. But this man-child was born. Now I want you to see this. It's not usual from our standpoint. And she brought forth a man-child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron, and her child was caught up unto God and to his throne. Satan wanted to take this man-child and destroy him, devour him. And so he led Herod to destroy all the babies in Bethlehem. But God saved Jesus by having his family go to Egypt. And then we find that we don't see anything about the cross here. We don't see anything about the ministry of Jesus. 33 years is hidden in this verse. It's not there. You see, the Messiah was what the Jews were looking for. They brought forth this man. He was to rule all nations with the rod of iron. We think of Jesus as love, and Jesus is wonderful. But when he comes back to rule this world, he's going to rule with the rod of iron. He's going to use violence to put down the violence. I see that, all the killings in Columbus, they're saying, oh, please stop the violence. That's what they're putting it out. Please stop the violence. You think that's really going to stop? No. They're going to have to do something more than just plead with these people. If Jesus was to come today to America, to the White House, and he was to say, look, I'm the true leader of this world and I'm going to take over, he'd get laughed at. President and the Congress, they just turn their back on him. He's not going to come into any nation in this world and be accepted unless he comes with power, unless he comes with violence. He's going to rule with a rod of iron. And we got to see that. Nothing but violence is going to stop the violence. Nothing but that. And he was caught up. He was ascended. So he was born and ascended. 33 years, done. And so he was ascended up to God and to the throne. And that's where he is today, forever being our advocate for the Father. And he needs to be, because we're going to see a verse later that tells us why. So she brought forth this man-child, and he's now ascended to the throne. And then it says, the woman fled into the wilderness, where she had a place prepared of God, that they should feed her 1,260 days. Now, well, the woman fled into the wilderness because the Antichrist is going to help her rebuild the temple for the first half of the tribulation period. And he's going to make nice with Israel. He's going to be their best buddy. They're going to proclaim him as their Messiah. But halfway in the middle of the tribulation period, he's going to take over the temple, put the abomination of desolation there, and he's going to turn against Israel. He's going to persecute them. Satan is going to come down at that time and indwell him. And he's going to be hating Israel. And they're going to have to flee. And it says there's a place prepared of God. Now, most Bible expositors say that's the rock-hewn city of Petra. And it's there because It's a very, very formidable place to get into. A very small place to go through a passage to get there. So it's very easily defended. But it says they should feed her 1,260 days. Who is the they? It doesn't say the they. Well, I'm going to give you my opinion today. I can't be dogmatic, but I'm going to give you my opinion as to who they are. Now, verse 7 says there was war in heaven. Why was there war in heaven? We think of heaven being a wonderful place. Oh, no problems there. Wonderful, idyllic place. But there was war there. Now, remember, Satan hasn't been cast out. Remember, we're going through the book of Job. Satan was there. He accused Job, and Job had to go through a lot to prove to Satan that his accusation was not right. But he gets his way there. He's going to be able to be there. And what if when we leave, when the church leaves at the beginning of the tribulation, what if we know there's a time of rewards and a time of judgment for the church. We're all going to stand before the judgment seat of Christ. What if Satan was there? Just think about this. What if Satan was there, accusing us every way? But Jesus steps up and pleads the blood over us and his righteousness over us. And Satan is so mad that he starts this war. What if it's because of our ability to receive the rewards that Satan doesn't think we deserve? And truly, he's right. We're not going to deserve them. But what if Satan is there and he's so mad, he's so angry that he starts this war? Now that's one thought that I found as I was going through this. But I want you to see the next verse, or the next line. It says, Michael and his angels fought against the dragon. Now, Michael is the prince of Israel. He's the archangel that's the prince of Israel. So this war is not about the church. It's not really about whether Satan likes our rewards or not, or agrees with them. It's about Israel. Satan is going to be fighting against Israel. And Michael doesn't like it. The other angels don't like it. And so they stand up against it, Satan. And his angels fought against the dragon. The dragon fought and his angels. And so they fought. We don't think about being war in heaven, but there was, or there will be. And it says, and prevailed not, neither was their place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceives the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. So finally, Satan is cast out. Finally, heaven will be what we want it to be. Finally, we're going to be there. But we're going to have to put up with them being there during that first half of the tribulation period. Fortunately, we have an advocate with the Father. Fortunately, we do. But we have to realize that he's going to be there for a while. But he's cast out. Finally and forever. Cast out. And then it says, I heard a loud voice saying, now has come salvation and strength and the kingdom of our God and the power of his Christ. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our God day and night. Now, does that mean 24 hours a day he's accusing us? Maybe sometimes he came in the day and sometimes he came at night. I don't know. But I would hate to think that we'd have to stand there for 24 hours a day, 24 days a week, all that time being accused. But he's going to come. He's going to come again and again and again. But we have an advocate. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb, by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives unto the death. So this voice is maybe us. We are talking. Now has come salvation and strength. And that word strength is power. And then the kingdom of our God and the power of his Christ. But that word power is the word authority. The authority of his Christ. By his authority he is cast out and accused them. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb. We're not going to overcome him by our deeds, by our things. Where the earth is going to experience a woe. Heaven is free, but the earth is going to experience a woe. But we're going to see that we're going to overcome it by the blood of the Lamb. And that's the only thing that really counts. And by the word of their testimony. Is the word of your testimony going out today? Do the people that know you best know that you are a Christian? Know that you love the word of God? Know that you stand with him? Know that you love him? And they love not their lives unto the death. Our love. There are a lot of people that have a head knowledge of Christianity. But do we love him to our death? Will we follow him to death? We may have to yet. We don't know what's going up ahead. But we know that in our land, it's still free to come to church. But we know that one day we might have to, certainly the people that go through the tribulation period that accept him during that time will have to love him unto their death. And there are lots of people around the world that are experiencing that now. As you see in your thing today that was given to you, 1/8 of the people of the world live in a place where they could be killed for their faith. They could be in prison. They don't have the same freedom that we do. But we have to have that same love. What are you? Are you someone who loves him with your head or loves him with your whole heart? Would you be able to stand up for him and say you can shoot if you want to, but I'm still loving him? People of the past have done that through the Caesars and through all the tyrants of the past. And yet, that's the only way to overcome, is to overcome him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of our testimony and by our love for him that is supreme, even unto the death. What a wonderful passage we have there. And then we find that Satan, he don't like being cast out. But it says, therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and to the sea, for the devil has come down and you having great wrath. Because you know if he has but a short time. He knows he only has 3.5 years. He knows that. But he's come down to the earth and he's really going, the last half of the tribulation is called the time of Jacob's trouble. And certainly the Jews are going to be really persecuted and even more so. And those who love Jesus are going to be persecuted during that time. But rejoice, ye heavens that dwell in them. That's us. We're going to be there. We're going to be rejoicing because Satan's not there anymore. It's going to truly be the heaven we thought it was. But woe to the heavens of the earth. We've been looking for this last woe for a long time. And we're going to see the last woe later on. But the devil has come down, having great wrath. And then verse 13, when the dragon saw he was cast in the earth, he persecuted the woman which brought forth the man-child. And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness unto her place, where she is nourished for a time, and times, and half a time, from the face of the serpent. 1 year, and 2 years, and a half a year. That's 3.5 years. Now the woman was given 2 wings of a great eagle. What is on all our planes in the United States? Eagle wings. Wings. They're on all our planes. If anything happens, some nation is in trouble. Who brings aid? The United States. Who brings airlifting if someone needs to be evacuated? The United States. This makes sense to me. The United States is going to jump in here and it's going to airlift these people to that place that God prepared, the rock-hewn city of Petra. And it's going to give her food during this 3.5 years. It says reason to me. I can't be dogmatic because we're not named here, but the wings of an eagle are, I think, compelling to find out that it's the United States that's going to jump in there and help Israel during that time. We've been about our only friend in the world all this time. I can't see the United States turning her back on Israel at this point. And so, if you want to know where the United States is in prophecy, there, I think it is. But I can't be dogmatic about it. And so, and then this flood, the serpent cast out of his mouth waters of flood after the woman, that she might cause her to be cast away in the flood. And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood, which the dragon cast out of his mouth. Now, everything else is literal here. I think that it really will be a flood. And Satan is going to cause, the only way to get into the rocky city of Petra is through this channel that goes through the rock. And he's going to try to flood it. He's going to try to destroy them. But the earth is going to help the woman. How many times has God opened the earth to swallow something? He swallowed the people that were trying to take over Aaron's job. He swallowed the earth, swallowed them. And the earth opened up and did this and that so many times. And so the earth is going to help the woman. It's going to swallow the flood so that she is safe for that 3.5 years. And then the last verse, the dragon was wroth with the woman and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which kept the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. Remember, at the beginning of the tribulation, 144,000 Jewish people were sealed to be witnesses unto the Lord Jesus Christ. And they've been working for 3.5 years. So many, multiple thousands of people have accepted Christ through their testimony. So he can't get to the woman. So he's going to turn to these Jewish Christians who have heard about Jesus because of their testimony of the 144,000. And he's going to make war with them. And so these are the people, certainly, that are going to have to pay, many of them with their lives. During this time, he's going to make war with all those who love and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. And they're going to stand up at that time and be counted for him. I just hope that if we ever come to that point, we could be accounted for him. You have to search your own heart to find out. But do we love him that much? We say we do, but do we really love him? I'm going to have Bob come up.